Hi, welcome to I Tried to Eat My Phone. I'm always joined by Mike and Todd, and also joining us from Chicago tonight is one of my very best friends, Kara Spack. I,
It's our
yay!
Can
first
you hear that, or is
guest.
that
It's
like
our
a golf
first
clap?
guest.
Okay.
This is crazy.
Yeah,
Impressive.
Kara, I was trying to think of how to introduce you in less than like an hour because I started writing stuff about you and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a whole podcast alone on your life. So um Kara hails from originally Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Currently lives
Sorry
in
about
Chicago.
last weekend.
It's okay.
I know that was rough.
I did buy a
I know.
flag.
It's a rough
Now that I
Saturday.
have this house, I like bought a Steelers flag.
Did you just buy it this year? Or you're like, all right, this is the year I'm buying a Steelers flag. I would have too. You're 11-0. I'd be like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna buy it any year.
Hang it
Okay,
proudly.
I also like my one big home improvement project was I learned how to use a drill and drilled in like the flagpole mount.
Oh, sweet.
Which is like if you mess it up, you're like destroying the exterior of your home. And then I was telling my mom, like, oh, I bought this Steelers flag. And she's like, oh, I didn't know you had like a flagpole. I was like, yeah, I actually like got a drill and like put that thing in there. She said,
I didn't until yesterday, and now I do have a flag.
she's like,
How you like
I
that?
hope you didn't do it so that the flag hits people in the face when they're walking up.
Is it off? Where is the flag? Is it like out? Is it like off? Like I haven't seen your house, but is it like on the house or on the like a front fence?
Yeah, no, it's on the house, like a big pillar when you walk up the steps. So we had an American flag. I actually have like a Notre Dame flag from my childhood home.
And then switched it out for the.
Well, I don't know where it is, but I think
America.
it's like in this offsite storage unit. We haven't.
You're just throwing things in there. You're like, I don't know what's in there. I don't want to talk about it. We're gonna
like
look
my
at it
Notre
later.
Dame flag and my wedding dress, and then like about 2,000 of my husband's books, his childhood desk, and like a big paper filing cabinet, but nobody files paper.
Those are nice that you have. Like everyone needs and probably has in some aspect, like some place that they just put things in. They just don't like.
Yeah.
That's our not pay attention to place. Like just put things over there. Like I have various closets in my house that are kind of like that. Like don't go in there. It's not
Right. One day I'll get to it.
Yeah, you just open it.
I mean, being
throw it
locked
there.
in your house for 9 months, you think the opportunity would have arose, but
Yeah.
Cleaning the storage room has been like at the top of our to-do list for 2.5 years. So that's
If you,
Still
if
going.
you haven't done it during the pandemic,
I know,
it's
right?
not going to happen.
It's amazing how I like find other things to do. But, you know, I'm just not going to clean my storage room.
I was like, this house is a flag. Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that you worked your way to the Steelers flag. Like it was like childhood Notre Dame flag, then America, then I don't know what else was in there. Then eventually you're like, all right, Steelers flag, I'm putting it up, and I'm getting a drill. Now, is the Steelers flag still out there?
No, today I brought it in because I was like, I don't want it to rain on it and ruin it. I mean, I've had an American flag out there for like a couple months. We're like
Yeah.
the Steelers flag.
It's like really mid-January is the time when you bring things in that you didn't want to get ruined in Chicago.
I know, right?
I think about right now. It's about the time you drain your swimming pool. I mean, my Christmas lights are still up, so that'd be like mid-February at the time.
Yeah.
Real quick side note, Mike, condolences on the Bears too. That was a rough game.
I know. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was really sad.
I know.
I cried.
All right. So yes, so Kara hails from Pittsburgh originally, but she has lived in, South Bend, Atlanta, Georgia. Tell me if I miss any of them. Montana,
Yeah.
Montana.
California,
Sweet.
London, New York City,
Yep.
and now Chicago. Did I get
Shut
everything?
your mouth, really?
I think so. Yeah. I think that's
Okay. And Kara also has a great history of being on game shows. In was it 96 or 97 that you were on Price is Right?
97.
97, which she won a dinette set.
Yes.
So that was very exciting.
That's very
And-
nice.
Do you still have
And
it?
and a fax machine, which
Is
tells
it in
you
the storage unit? Is that dinette set in the storage unit?
Is the
No,
fax machine in the storage unit?
No, that would be great though. That's what I bid on to get like up on the stage. Like I was on the whole show. Like I was one of
Yeah.
the first 4 picked. And then I had a woman next to me that $1'd me. And
Which Kara has a
$1
great reaction.
me. I love
When
that.
she has a
That's
great
lingo.
reaction.
That's Price is Right lingo.
Yeah.
Hey,
there's
I got
the gal-
dollared today. I got dollared.
The gal bids $1 over, and Kara you just see Kara off to the side, and she's like,
I knew it.
And I was in the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, after college when I did The Price is Right. So I had no idea how much any household, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't going to work in the refrigerator. Like I'd moved out of
Wait,
house.
this is old. That was original Bob Barker.
It was
right?
Bob Barker. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. That you had
Yeah,
like original Bob
fun.
Barker, old school.
We went with like 2 people I was in JVC with.
Oh, that's cool. And you
So-
and don't they like interview you outside or something a little bit to like see
Right.
if
They
you're-
like basically like cast outside who's going to be on the
Yeah.
show. So pretty much everybody's like, I wanted to do this. This actually goes back. It's like a Karen story. I wanted to do this since I was little, but when Karen and I, when we were all over at Notre Dame, our like dorm fundraiser was we did this Price is Right. And Karen and I were Barker's beauties and wore like our prom dresses.
What?
I remember that. Yeah, that was awesome.
My turn. I was like, you know what? I actually have been a Barker's beauty. Do you want to see my move? The guy's like, you're hired. And then I was down on the stage.
That's pretty impressive. I
That's awesome.
only know that little nugget about how they like the line in the interview from the Perfect Bid little documentary show.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it.
That I watched.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. So you must have impressed him. You must have been like super into it. I'm gonna be up there.
I know we're going to talk about the suburban journalism, but I will say like Notre Dame is expensive, grad school is expensive. I had a lot of student loans and journalism, like the Pioneer Press job paid $440 a week before taxes, which is why I took it over a job offer with City News Service because that was $390 a week.
Nice. Oh,
And I had like rent, a car payment. Like I really went a little underwater there. Like I went after the dream, but like the numbers didn't really add up there at the beginning. But I was like, I'll do anything for extra money. And so like the game shows was part of that. Like I've tried out for these game shows and I worked at the Gap on Michigan Avenue.
really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
So
You were hustling.
Legendary. Yeah.
yeah. So real quick too, Kara, if you recognize her from anywhere, it's most likely that her stint on Jeopardy.
Yes.
She was on Jeopardy and was asked back for the Tournament of Champions too. So that was very exciting. And she is a reporter, journalist, PR person, writer, editor, mom to a wonderful kid, wife to an awesome husband who is also in journalism. So anyway, that's my
Steelers
spiel
fan.
on you.
Steelers fan.
Yeah. Steelers
Only in the
fan.
winter. Handy person drill. Put the
Yes.
thing
Yeah.
up.
So Mike and Kara worked at Pioneer Press. What years were you guys there?
I was there in 97, 98. And we actually also worked at the Aurora Beacon News together, didn't we?
We did. Yeah.
Ah,
Wait, was that
okay.
before or after Pioneer Press? No,
That
Pioneer
was
Press.
after Pioneer Press. Yeah.
Was
Mike got
Pioneer
to-
Press right out of grad school?
Yes.
Yes.
For me, was that
Okay.
for you too, Kara?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
So
knew
it
I wanted
started
to
at
do-
Pioneer Press and then Beacon News.
I knew I went to grad school in New York City and then I was like living in Pittsburgh with my mom during the summer and knew I really wanted to move to Chicago, but I was interviewing anywhere I could try and get a job. So they included newspapers in York, Pennsylvania and Watertown, New York, where during the interview, the guy was like, and it was to be the schools reporter. He was like, it'll snow 2 feet here overnight and they won't shut the schools. He's like, we need like a 2-year commitment from you.
I love when people dissuade you from the job during the interview. It's like,
Yeah.
you're great, but listen, I mean, you should really like think long and hard about whether you want to come. You seem too good for this, really. It's like Michael Scott is interviewing, like, really, you seem like a nice, like a lovely person. And I think that this is going to be a problem if you come here. It'll
And we're gonna pay you $420 a week.
Yeah.
I was like 23 years old or whatever and single and looking to mingle and like
yeah, it's a job.
Pennsylvania wasn't kind of where but like I knew I was gonna get a job at the Tribune. So I would like a couple times I drove out to Chicago, stay with Karen, and then I would like drive to these suburban newspapers and just like show up and give them my resume. And I didn't know anything. It was like before the internet. So you gotta have maps. So I drove to the Daily Herald. I'm driving back on the Kennedy to go to the Daily Southtown, which is on Harlem Avenue. So I saw 90 on like the northwest side of Chicago, Harlem Avenue. So I got up there and all the way.
Harlem is a long street with varying degrees, varying degrees of neighborhoods.
6 hours later, and
there's like a 0
400 streetlights.
So like you think you're getting to like 400 north or whatever, but then it turns out it's like 1400 south.
You're like, the numbers are starting over. Oh, come on.
I'm like, I don't know what, but actually it was like a precursor to like many, many years of driving.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's right. That was like when you applied for job. I mean, you had to really hustle, like trying to apply for jobs and just like showing up with resumes or like putting like stamps on things and hoping that somebody opens it. Like these kids nowadays.
I know, right? They have it so easy. Yeah, the hardest, or it was expensive too to apply for jobs because you would put your clips in with your resume into like a manila folder and then stamp the thing. So each time you applied for a job, it was like a $5 investment. And, only to get the editor at the Watertown, New York paper tell you, you really don't want this job. Trust me.
I have somewhere all my rejection letters from that summer, and there's probably like 20 to 30 of them. And one of that, and it was like somewhere there was like these job postings. So we would know, like, I would know what these openings were. And so I applied for something, got the rejection letter, and then like another job came up there like a month later. So I applied again, and the guy wrote back like, as I said in my first letter, like a month ago.
I love it. As I told you, we don't want you here. It's not good. There's a lot of snow. I told you.
So.
As I told you. Oh God.
What did they start you guys out with at the paper? I mean, what were the things that I know, Kara, I remember you did the police blotter for a long time, and that was one of my favorite things to read that you did. I was telling Mike and Todd the story about the pizza one, which is always one of my favorites.
Oh, you did $12.99.
Yeah, Karen said that you had to report on anything that was on the police blotter, no matter what. Like,
right. So I covered like my actual beat was the village of Schaumburg, which like, again, like not being from Chicago, I had no idea I was like Schaumburg or Crystal Lake, both sound good. I mean, one is like 2 hours away. I had like no idea what I was doing. But I ended up Schaumburg. The police blotter, well, in all the Pioneer Press, the police blotter was like the most popular feature. So everybody, I think, if you had a town, had to do it. And so I would go twice a week, look through like paper crime reports, but they have this huge mall in Schaumburg. So it was all like shoplifting.
It's all like someone stealing from the Abercrombie and Fitch or.
Right. I mean, it would be like a pair of socks valued at $6.99 or whatever was stolen from Nordstrom. And then you put like 115 North Woodfield Way Boulevard.
Yeah, everyone's just like this. We get it. Woodfield Mall, right? Yeah.
And then somebody had to make all of that into a map.
So did you?
Yeah.
When you did the police blotter, Mikey, did you do the police blotter?
I did too. Yeah, I covered Elk Grove Village, so that was the neighboring town, one of the neighboring towns to Schaumburg.
And so like they assigned you to like a town, and then you had to basically do everything for that town, like all the reporting for that city.
Village board meetings, park district board meetings, police blotter, any like fires or accidents that would happen in the town, we'd be on it. Yeah,
what were the big deals in Elk Grove Village when you were there? Like, what was the happenings there?
Well, the biggest news story, and one of the biggest news stories of my life, and of course my journalism career was far shorter than Kara's, but it was the Bears.
That's right.
Like looking at Elk Grove Village, like actually threatening to pull out of Chicago, and they had these negotiations with Elk Grove Village to build a new stadium. Actually, and there was a a man who owned this like huge parcel, this like gigantic farm in the middle of the village. And they thought it was, big enough for them to put a stadium and big parking lot on and everything else. And so they started, it was all posturing to get what is now the new Soldier Field built.
Oh, quite a gem, quite a gem.
Yeah, right. But at the time, I mean, they treated it very seriously. I actually had a stakeout, my one and only stakeout as a reporter. Stayed like hung out in a parking lot. I got like tipped off by neighbors that the owner of the Bears at the time was meeting with the neighbors, who were upset about, the Bears possibly moving to Elk Grove. And so I got a tip where they were meeting. And so hung out in the parking lot till like midnight that night. And then when people started coming out, I kind of wandered in and there he was.
What? Oh, it really happened.
Interview. Yeah. Michael McCaskey's like standing there. I'm like, it's the owner of the Bears. And I get to interview him. And I'm like, 20.
Did you catch him? Did you go up to him and like?
Yeah, actually, I think there was like one or two other reporters there. So he saw us come in and, he was really gracious and very nice to us and everything. So, and very kind of upfront too. I mean, there was, I was kind of like, so you're meeting with the people who are most upset about this? He's like, yeah. We just kind of learn what
all these people hate you.
Yeah.
I'm mostly pissed off about the Bears performance, but they also hate me as a person.
The beauty of being a reporter is you can ask, questions like that and just be like, I'm just asking, it's just a question.
Yeah. Would they like, all right, I have a question for both of you. Would they, so you're covering the city, but could you go and like, I don't know, find stories about like the town? Like, or was it kind of like you had this list of things that you did every day or every week or something like that? Like, did you have any autonomy about that?
Yes, you had a ton of autonomy, and there were at the time like other local newspapers and other reporters like who covered Elk Grove Village and Schaumburg, mostly from the Daily Herald. So you would be trying to like beat them, but there was no internet. Like now, part of the issue with the news, why people are like, they got it wrong, is because everybody is trying to like post it first on the internet. So like, but you work for the weekly paper. So it was like really, really hard to beat them because
you're on your Motorola Flip. You're trying to get like some info out of the.
It was like big. It was huge. If you could scoop the Daily Herald, because they had, 7 opportunities before you had one. And yeah, I mean, it happened like rarely, right?
Right. I think I only did it once, and I remember what the story was. And it was from going to like a police board meeting or something, and the other guy didn't show up, but it was like they were basically using mugshots as in the target range.
Oh, geez.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. That's a pretty big scoop. Oh my God.
Police officer, he like realized his like girlfriend was up there. And he thought it was funny, and he came home and was like, "Hey, guess who I saw at the target range? Like you from your DUI. They had you up there, like,
oh my God,
lead or whatever." So I don't know if she filed a suit or like a complaint or something like that, but like some sort of like official thing was filed. That's how this whole thing came out.
I love the intro. Remember that DUI you got?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was like the other crazy thing is like you get like DUIs with people's names, and like I had no appreciation for this at the time. And then also like Mike had a much better relationship with the mayor of Elk Grove Village than I did. But like I would go out to breakfast with Al Larson, like the Schaumburg mayor, but people would know they were like going to be in the paper, or you had to call them for a comment, like these like business guys, dads, and they would like flip out. Like, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to destroy you. And like, at the time I was like, do the crime, do the time. I mean, that was like completely my mentality. But like in retrospect, like, I mean, not being 23, 24 years old now, I was like, these mayors and like all these people must have been like, this was nuts. Like they unleashed people that have like never like have like zero life experience. And like all of a sudden they're telling us like how it's supposed to be in the.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys coming in like mid-20s coming and trying to scoop them. I'm sure they're like trying to call them out on stuff, and they're
or like
sure
that
like
wouldn't pay their property taxes, and the assessor's office. Do you remember this, Mike? With like big list. So like you would go through and be like, who's like the top 5 like people not paying their taxes? Hi.
Did you ever report on the local high school prom? Did you ever have to do like that? Like 3 kids found with a bottle of Mad Dog in the woods. They were drinking.
Well, sometimes
And the
like
parents would get, I'm sure the parents would be pissed.
yeah, I mean juveniles you didn't get your name in, but like definitely out in the suburbs, kids would drink and drive and like die, like get into these
Oh,
accidents
wow.
and stuff like that. And then you have to like go talk to the parents.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I
Yeah.
remember you having to go out to
Oh,
some of
man.
those families and how hard that was for you.
I was
you
very
know, like-
effective at that. So I did a lot of it. But ultimately, I was like, I cannot do this anymore, especially after I had a kid. I was like, I am done. And that's another thing in retrospect where I'm like, hopefully I treated the people with like the respect that they deserve, but I'm not 100% sure I like got that right every time. And like,
Well,
I have some regrets if I made like a horrible situation. I mean, I did like a mass shooting at NIU.
Oh my
You know, like
God.
the parents got a call, and like an hour later, I was like, "Hi, I'm from the Sun Times."
Yeah, like, right. Like, I have to
Yeah.
talk with you.
Yeah, like, I mean,
I'm-
basically, you were like hauling ass to get there before anybody else, because if you have it, then you can decide if you want to share it or not.
Yeah, and that's, oh
I
man.
mean, whatever. It's like it's a dirty business.
That's what I was going to ask both of you, Mike and Kara, like if you had whether it was like, I don't know, a tough story or a feel good story or something, was there what sticks with you still, like something you wrote about that you still kind of think about, like, wow, that was really, or that affected you that much that it really stuck with you?
Let you go, Mike.
Kara.
Um,
Aside from the kids in the woods with the Mad Dog. And the police blotter.
oh yeah, okay. Well,
And the socks.
Yeah, pair of socks from the Claire's Boutique.
Well, you know, so that I mean, I think there are definitely, I mean, there are stories that I'll remember for the rest of my life, you know, things that I got to write. But the ones that I think I enjoyed the most were the ones where I, you know, really got a chance to get to know the people over time. It wasn't just a single, you know, one evening there was something that happened and I was there and I reported and I, you know, interviewed 3 or 4 people, and it was the longer features that I remember for sure. And, you know, those are the ones that I'll, you know, kind of take with me, so to speak. But the thing that was really, I think, interesting about our Pioneer Press job too was like the schedule, which is just so insanely crazy. It was so weird. Like, you know, like for us in Elk Grove, they had village board meetings on Tuesdays, and that was deadline day. And so like I would work 12 hours on Mondays and Tuesdays, but you know, since we were a part of the union, we could only work 37 and a half hours total. Like there was no overtime, period. And so that means I like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I would only have like 13 hours total for the 3 days. And I was like, at the time, I'm like, woohoo, you know, I'm gonna work like 3 hours.
That's why we went to so many Cubs games,
Exactly.
right?
2:20 start on a Friday, no
Yeah.
problem.
Oh, that's no
I can
problem.
make it. I just got to get like 2 hours in at the office, and I'm good to go.
you know, that's the other great thing about that job is like you can leave and like nobody knows where you are, and you don't really have to tell them as long as you get your story done.
Especially, I
Yeah.
assume like before the internet and cell phones got going, and even after cell phones, I mean, people weren't as like expectant of you to be in constant touch, right? So if you just left a place, like, I don't know, I assume they're doing their job. We'll find out later. I don't know.
Right.
And
At the Daily Herald, I had a beeper.
oh, nice.
So they would like page, you could leave when your story was in, but they would page you, and then you would have to like get off the highway driving home and like
I was gonna say find a phone.
Find a payphone. Wow.
yeah, so they could like ask you questions about your story. Or if you went to like a Schaumburg board meeting, I think mine was Monday night, so it wasn't like quite the deadline I would say, but at the Daily Herald, you wrote it out longhand and called it in. And they had these like people whose job was to answer the phone. So there's like reporters from like 4 different counties. And at the time, the Daily Herald now, it's not the same, but at the time they had like Schaumburg, like the village reporter, a school board reporter, And then like a neighbor
You're, like,
reporter was like,
call it, and you're like literally dictating it into people that are like,
yeah, you'd
typing
be
it
like,
up.
Schaumburg Village Board voted tonight 11-0 to raise the, whatever.
That's crazy.
And
That's
somebody would be there like typing it.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like, so.
high tech. That's high tech.
Yeah.
It's really not that long ago, but I mean, obviously we've watched, you guys especially, but we've watched print journalism change dramatically over even just the last 10 years. Like, so to think about, you getting a page and going to a payphone and
On the Kennedy, it's
that
like,
just seems like it seems so antiquated now, even though it doesn't feel like it wasn't that long ago. Like
All of
how
our
much
Gen
we've-
Z listeners are like, payphone? What is she talking
what are you
about?
talking about?
Payphone.
that's where Superman changes, right?
Yeah. Sometimes you see empty boxes on the side of the road, like near a subway with wires hanging out. Those used to be phones. Not anymore.
Mike, did you have any sort of story that you felt like was particularly odd or weird or something that kind of caught you off guard?
I had a swingers club.
You did? I didn't know that.
In Elk Grove.
Well, no, it actually wasn't in Elk Grove. It was in Kendall County.
That
So
you
this
frequented
is-
or that was busted? Which one?
well, actually neither. So believe it or not. So
I heard about it.
yes, right. Through the grapevine. No, so when I was at the Beacon News, part of my beat was covering Kendall County, which is this rural county. Carrie, I mean, it's just like, I mean, it is like a quiet little, county, lots of corn. And now it's a little different. I mean, some of the towns have grown considerably, but at the time, 20 years ago, it was pretty small and remote. And, I'm out there, hustling around, going to county board meetings and stuff like that. And there was there was some kind of zoning issue or something came up. It was on the agenda, and this couple was there, and like it sort of came out over the course of the discussion about why they were there to get maybe it was like a liquor license or something. I don't know exactly what it was, but suddenly it was like, oh, we have like adult themed parties. They described it like that, and someone's like, wait, it's swingers? Are you swinging?
Yeah. Go back to what did she
Yeah.
say? Bring your wife back up. What did she say?
So it was
You're trying to zone off in like hour 3 of the meeting, and you're like, what?
I know. Tell you, that's exactly right. I mean, these meetings were so long. It's so boring. And I'm sitting there going, why am I here? And then suddenly I'm like, Swingers Club. Oh my God. It's like, gold falling from the sky, for a reporter.
Everybody in the meeting wakes up and they're like,
Oh yeah, I'm
hey,
sure.
I'm here for this.
I
I
know,
used to
right?
during those meetings would think, what would be worse, being at this meeting or lying on a bed of sharp steaks? Like,
You're just thinking about that constantly as you're laying there. Like, would I rather be right now lying on a bed of knives?
right? I'd be like, this is-
Knives, right? Oh, swingers. Nope, I'd rather be here. I'm here.
sometimes these like the reporters would nod off. A guy I worked with,
Oh,
job was like a local reporter in Oak Park and this was kind of a dick move, but like he videotaped a guy and put it on the internet, like his competition, like nodding off.
Oh my gosh.
yeah. I mean, of course they're not off. Can you imagine? I'm just thank goodness I'm not in charge of like meetings like that, because I couldn't. They would be like 5 minutes. They'd be like, all right, come on. Does anyone have anything interesting like swingers clubs or
Right.
stolen socks to talk about? Because if they don't, and we're just gonna sit here and talk about like boring stuff like teacher salaries and stuff, we have to go.
almost, like, comes down to
what was go ahead.
Oh, somebody was always like, they'd be like, we're putting in like a permit to like dig a ditch. And they'd be like, what about the kids? Like a kid could fall in this, whatever the issue is.
The kids.
That was the formula for reporting, right? I mean, it was always like, learn about the issue, then find the NIMBYs, go find not in my backyard, go find those people. Because for everything that was going to happen, there's always at least one person who was against
Wait
it.
a second. Is that a known term? The NIMBYs? I don't know
NIMBYs.
that.
Yeah.
It's a great term. I know exactly. As soon
I
as you
love
said
that.
not in my backyard, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like
Wait,
the concept of I feel like a lot of these is not that it's exactly the same thing, but I always say this about like if any of you, and I know Carrie, you have been and like on a condo, like been to a condo board meeting, right? It's sort of like it's not it's like I feel like I have not you, but like the people there feel like they have to say something
Yes.
about something, even though it, like we all know it's not that important. Like I was at a condo board meeting one time and they were arguing for like an hour about the height of the box that's on the wall where you put your check to put the, you know, your monthly assessment.
Yeah.
Like it was too far from someone. I'm like, it's like right there. It's like, well, sometimes when I'm walking my dog, it's like up too high and there's like snow. And I'm like, it's like a Tuesday at 11 p.m. You're like, what are we doing here? What? Yeah.
I know. I actually was a treasurer for 10 years on a condo board, and now I'm on like the HSA, which is like the Catholic PTA board. So
Oh, yeah.
I actually am like looking back at my life and being like, maybe I really like board meetings.
Someone's reporting on you now. You better watch out. Someone's like in the back, like
People are definitely like texting and these
Taking
HSA
notes, yeah.
meetings, like, did you hear that one?
oh well, swingers club takes it. I didn't.
I know. I want to know what happened though. I mean, did they?
Yeah, what's the resolution of the
There were
swingers club?
probably some NIMBYs about that.
Well,
Like-
you know, the beautiful thing about the civic process is, you know, you whatever you bring to the board, it starts at like some really low level committee and then kind of works its way up and then eventually gets to, you know, the board and then, you know, maybe it gets kicked back to another committee or whatever. But it could take months for these things to get resolved. And for a story like that, I mean, it's awesome. Like every like 2 weeks, I was like, all right, you know, I got my story this, you know, today. This is sweet.
I hope someone brings up the swingers club.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it didn't get blocked at the time. I know that. I think, and, you know, it was just kind of like, it was zoned for the, whatever they wanted to use it for. And they, and it happened. So I don't know whatever became of it, but yeah, it was fun to cover at the time.
Oh my gosh,
Kendall
that's
County
hilarious.
swingers
I just to think about like a quiet, like little area. I mean, maybe there's not much else to do. So
I know.
Yeah, they got to have somewhere to go.
something interesting.
I mean,
to
I
do.
like the idea. I think if you could turn it into a revenue generator, that would go right through committee. If you could just
Yeah, right.
spin that up.
Yes, that is often.
Are you making any money for the village? It could be. If you want us to. Oh, man. So wait, and then Carrie, you went to, so so you went to, after grad school, you went to Pioneer Press,
Uh-huh.
then to
The Aurora Beacon News.
Aurora Beacon News.
Illinois. And in
Then where'd you
fact,
go?
I like love that job so much. And like one thing I will say is in these small newspapers, the people who are like, there's like kind of, well, I'd say like maybe two different types of people. There are like people who were like Mike and I, who are like young, want to give this a shot, like totally like putting our, you know, like working really hard and like really getting into it. And then there's probably like lifers who like, this is just what they do and they're not that into it. But then there's like another category of, this is like a lot of the editors and some of the reporters where they like love these towns. They love being like community journalists. They never wanted to work at the New York Times. Like they just
Yeah.
want to be in Aurora and they're like super into it. And it's great when you're like a young reporter because they know everything about these.
Yeah,
So like
that's
Aurora had a mass shooting at a factory and I gave like $50 to the GoFundMe because I'm like, now I, make more than $440 a week. And I have so many great memories of like the time working there and like the town and how gracious everybody was about, like one story I remember from Aurora was there was like a crime, or not like a spree, but and Aurora was like a good like suburb to cover because there was actual news. Like there were gangs there's crime,
yeah.
there were undocumented immigrants, and that was like a huge issue at the time. So there
Socks,
was
a lot of
actually-
socks being stolen, stuff.
yeah, exactly. It's like
stuff.
good news. It's like national issues like playing out in this local town. But I interviewed this woman who had like lived in her home for like 90 years and refused to leave and listened to like the police scanner all day. And I think somebody got shot in her front yard or next door. It's kind of like Mike said, like I went over a couple times and like wrote this big feature about why she didn't want to leave. And like her kid, I think I talked to her kids and they were like, we want her out of here. Like we're begging her to go and she won't go. And like, I got a lot of like, I guess, oh, you know what they had? They had this anonymous hotline.
I was just going to say, you used to get
I got a lot of feedback on that, like really positive feedback from people that were like, I feel exactly the same way about the town. Like my parent is exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So,
This message is for Kara. I don't want to say who I am. I agree with you, what you wrote about these socks. And
every other Friday night, I was the night police reporter. And you have to call like 50 police stations. Like, hi, this is Kara from the Beacon News. Anything going on? No. It's Kara. And then like 50 fire stations. So in between, I would call.
In between 100 phone calls? Oh my God.
Yeah, like I would call this is like 9:00 on Friday night. Like everybody else is like out in Chicago, like at a bar. And I would try out for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That's how you like the Regis Philbin. You would call and then they'd be like, these 4 words are Fleetwood Mac album, like put them in order. And it'd be like 1 in 3 4 9.
Wait, what if you're like press, like you got to press a button?
And I also had to work there at Y2K and I would call all those like 50 people plus utilities at like midnight. 99 into 2000. And then I drove home and drove over a dead dog on
oh my God.
2 in the morning. It was like,
see, but isn't it like amazing how I don't know, I'm not speaking for you guys, but it seems like how you kind of like romanticize some of those like aspects of like,
yes,
really
like
grinding. Because I mean, you're right, like you're grinding it and you're young, but you're not making much money. You're like going a mile a minute. You're doing stuff like that. You're sacrificing all your time, and you guys were doing it for obviously not like for the money. You're doing it to try to move up in that industry. And I just wonder if you guys look back at it now and sort of romanticize that time as being like a hustle, like kind of a cool, like just doing what you're doing. Kind of.
Yeah.
I was just telling that the Y2K story, I think to my family not that long ago. It was like, oh yeah, the whole, like everyone was there in the newsroom because we were all afraid that like everything was just gonna like crash. No, like not a single machine was going to continue working and planes were gonna fall out of the sky and everything else. And then it became like 12:01 and nothing happened. We're all like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can we go? I mean, it's like midnight. It's New Year's. Can I go now? Yeah.
Like, see, that's funny. I haven't told my kids about that. Like, were they like, see, I feel like now people are like, that's such a ridiculous that the world stopped. Like, that's so ridiculous because the web of everything being together and the concept of everything like breaking down is like almost impossible. Cause it's like, like Wi-Fi on top of the internet, on top of 5G. It's like, they can't even conceptualize it. But at the time it was like, oh, it seems like if just like a couple computers go down, like at the New York Times and Citibank, we're going to be screwed. That's pretty much it. That's going to be.
Well, because the microwaves aren't programmed to go from 1999 to 2000. We're all screwed.
Yeah.
So that was basically the theory.
Braced for that. Yeah.
Somebody
like everyone was kind of holding their breath. Like,
yeah.
Mikey, someone we know, and I feel bad that I can't remember, but someone or a couple of people we know had like jobs that were like, that's what they were doing. They were like prepping for Y2K. I don't know. They like work at a bank or a credit card company where they were basically like, I don't know what they were like reprogramming all of the systems to be able to do that, to be able to like
Y2K compliant.
Yeah. Like that's all they did all day. Like make sure this can have a 2 in front of it instead of a 1. Like
that's it. It makes you realize how old the movie Office Space is when you think that's kind of what they were doing at Initech. It was like the whole idea was that, where they were prepping for the Y2K thing, and that was huge. So that's well, I was thinking too about both of you in terms of, your experience in the journalism field and kind of where that's led you to now. Like, I mean, were there components of it? Obviously, some of the meetings were terrible, but were there components of it that spurred you on to other things and kind of interests in other areas that, you both kind of spoke to this a little bit with kind of what you saw and what you took away with you. So how did that kind of spur you into what you're doing now and what you like about what you do now?
I was going to say the salary largely spurred me into.
Is it better now or not? Or that 440 a week, was it 440 a week? That's
Yeah, they don't tell you in journalism school that you have to take an oath of poverty. It's just
Right.
that's pretty crazy, because that's like more of the, like, it romanticizes it even more for me as an outsider, like watching it, right? That you guys weren't doing it obviously for the money, and maybe the hope was later you would like make all this money, but that you weren't doing it for the money, and like, I don't know, I think that's pretty cool.
It is. I mean, it kind of is that when we graduated from Notre Dame, so many people then went to go work for Arthur Anderson. So if you were in Chicago, like Karen and I would go out to John Barleycorn, and we would meet up with all these people we went to college with who went to Arthur Anderson.
Yeah.
They would just be buying pitchers of beer, and they're like, "It's fine. Like, I'm going to expense this to Arthur Anderson." And
No.
everybody's
Yes.
What does that even mean?
right? Like, or they got like mileage if they drove. Like our one of our roommates was an accountant at Price Waterhouse, and she was on like a cheddar cheese account in, I think it was in Oak Brook. And
Yes.
Oh, you got the cheese account? Best
Yeah.
one.
It was great for St. Patrick's Day when we had the parties. Like she'd bring home all this like
Irish
free,
cheddar.
the Irish cheddar, like, and
Right,
it was
they gave her like swag, like shamrocks.
like the stuff that the delis would put up for the cheese. Like they'd send that home
like
with her. So
the big
like,
wheels and wow.
Well,
Well,
like no, but like shamrock, like fluffy.
Yeah, like the little,
the
like the-
decorations.
like,
yeah.
what they would
With, like, the cheese nail.
yeah. And so we decorate with all, because Kara was working at the paper, and I was, as I've always done, worked non-for-profit. So we were making like pennies. And so when our roommate would bring home all this stuff, we'd be like, sweet, like
Right,
you can have a job where they like give you a car, and like you get, or like people would go like, well, I have to go on a golf outing today. And I was like, really? Like
That's a
I'm in the
thing?
wrong profession, because I'm like, I like taught so many people how to golf, because I non-for-profit, there's no golfing events.
There's not.
Like we had another
They're
friend.
raising money at the golf outing to give to you. But
Yeah.
you don't
We
get to
were
go
like,
to the golf
please
outing.
just handle this.
I know, and I have to say, I actually I think I was late on rent, or like I bounced a check or something like that at some point, and like everybody was very forgiving of it, which they didn't have to, so.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember.
But that's like back then, like that's was like kind of, I remember, like, I think I'm probably like exaggerating this, but I think I remember like when we graduated, like we had like one friend who was like had a job like where he was going to make a salary like in the 30s, and it was like, whoa, like okay, money bags, like what, like
You're buying us dinner tonight.
yeah, like oh okay, and like the rest of us kind of like, oh, we'll just kind of figure it out, and that wasn't like that big of a deal. That I felt like there were certainly more people. I don't know about you guys, but I felt like there were certainly more people that we would run with that were on the lower, like the lower income side than the higher, right? You had like occasional people that were, but most people were like kind of grinding it out, and like
I would say like I just remember one of our roommates used to say like she worked at like a corporate job, and Kara and I got this comment a lot. I think it was kind of the idea of like people would ask our friends about their jobs, and then they would say, well, people ask me about my job, and then I talk about what you guys do. Because Kara and I always had great stories. I mean, we would come home like,
I'm sure,
between the paper and then my non-for-profit job, like, it was like adults with disabilities, and like, well, we, found two people together in the bathroom doing some things that they shouldn't have been doing, or like someone had a seizure today and we had to like mop up like blood from the floor, but typical day. But
Typical,
it was
it's
just
fine.
sort of like, so our friends in like the office world would be like, we just talk about your stories that you
Yeah.
guys
They're just
have."
doing TPS reports all day, and they're like, and the
Yeah.
fax
Seriously.
machine was jammed
Exactly.
again, and then
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
the worst
'cause
part of the office
Kara-
job, because you get to the end of the day and you're like, what do we do today? It's like, I don't really know.
Yeah.
I don't think anything. I
No,
think I
I
moved some
know.
papers. There were some papers over there, and now they're over there.
Yeah. Kara always had great stories coming home, and so yeah, it was a fun time to be in that position. Like,
Oh. Where did you guys wait? I probably should remember this, but where did you guys live when you were roommates in Chicago?
Okay, so we actually were not roommates.
Oh, you weren't? I thought you were roommates.
But I was there all the time. So I it was 3726 North Kenmore. It's still there, even though all the buildings around there have been torn down. So it's like dead ends into Wrigley Field.
Right,
And I lived
yeah.
at 505 East Belmont,
Nice.
Wow.
studio apartment with a lot of McDonald's workers. So when we would all like leave in the morning, they would all have their uniforms on. And it had
Was
like
Sweet.
it was like a very scary place, and they had like a laundry with huge mirrors, so if somebody like attacked you, you could see it. So I would like
Oh my God.
in the car and like drive to a laundromat rather than like be alone in that basement.
Wait, at the
Was-
Belmont address?
Yeah, 505 East Belmont. I actually have known
Yeah.
2 other people who lived in I work with in journalism who also
East
at some
Belmont.
point lived in that building. So I don't know. I mean, it was I think the rent was like $440 a month. So
Yeah.
like not
1 week.
and,
Was that
it was
how-
like a fun place to live. It was like right next to the lake, and
So was that like the block off the lake, basically, on Belmont?
Yeah.
I lived
Wow.
on that block, but it
No, no
was I
maybe
don't
you
know
lived
what
at
that was.
505 East Belmont.
I don't know. It wasn't. I don't remember it being as scary, but probably also being a guy and fairly oblivious. Probably didn't have any idea.
Was
I
that
would
the
honestly
apartment?
go to Karen's and like sleep on the couch.
Yes.
Yeah, just be like,
What was?
I-
Yeah, because that's what our place was. We were 3 houses up from the left field wall of Wrigley, and which was great. It was super fun. I mean, that was, like I said, during all the McGuire Sosa years and all that kind of stuff. So it was really fun.
Oh
but
yeah, because we're on the other side, right, Mikey?
right, you
On
were
the-
on
just
the other side
of
under
the
the
L
L
tracks.
tracks.
Yeah, we were on the
Yeah.
L tracks, and you guys were on the. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were on the opposite side up 3 houses from the Budweiser house.
That's right.
But Kara, was that the
Awesome.
apartment where you had the mouse?
Yes.
Lucy. Yes.
Oh.
Kara had a mouse
Lucy the
in her
mouse.
apartment, and she named it Lucy. And
I'm
then
like,
I think I came over and we tried to get
you
it.
came over to check the trap, which was very nice. Again, like very generous. I think it was
I just
because
remember-
I'm like, I can't sleep there if there's like a dead mouse under the bed and I can't look.
No, I remember
A live
coming
mouse
over
is
to-
fine. If it's live, I mean, you can do that.
Yeah.
Running over your face at night,
Yeah.
that's okay.
I had
I re-
oh, go ahead.
No, I just remember I came over to look, and I thought I was hilarious because I opened it because we were standing in the hallway, and I went in first because we weren't sure exactly what we were gonna find. And I opened the door and I was like, Lucy, I'm home. And
Like,
thought
I've been
I
waiting to
was
say
so
that for
funny.
weeks.
Lucy.
Yes, but I do remember we did find it. Was
Yeah.
You did find a
had
mouse?
expired.
Oh.
Yeah, it had expired.
In the glue trap.
Poor Lucy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you didn't, but it wasn't, you didn't
That's what the
kill
bull, you
Lucy.
get the horns.
Yeah. I can't believe we lived on the same block together. You probably lived there a lot earlier. I lived there, I think, when I was going to law school.
What did you do out of college? Todd?
I worked right out of college for several years. I did like clinical medical research for well, actually I should say that I take it back. So right out of college, I was like a what was called a mental health counselor at like a mental health facility, but I really was like kind of like an intake type of, I don't know, like, and I would do like shift work. So it was like same thing. It was like kind of, it was fine for a while because, you're that age and it's like, somebody's like, oh, do you want to work the do you want to make time and a half or double time and work the morning shift on Easter? And I'm like, okay, like big deal, you know, like big deal. Or like if you work the 3 to 11 shift, you're like, oh, that's perfect. I'll get out just in time to go out with all my friends, like at 11:30 at night when we get started. Like, you know, like, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, doing that long-term would have been pretty difficult, but yeah. And then I did clinical research for several years during that time. So that was also, yeah, I mean, and that's where I met like Aaron, our mutual friend, Aaron McGinley, and all of them. And so we were doing all that. Like you guys, you're doing like a lot of kind of like low level, like you're not volunteering, but you're doing sort of non-for-profit type work, and you're doing it for, you know, the love of the game and all that kind of stuff. So that was good. But I romanticize that time. Like I miss that sort of time in my life of being like this, you know, like just kind of like going from day to day, just, I don't know, just grinding out, like you're just, you know, it's cool.
Yeah, it's
my
all
friends in
open.
Chicago are like from the local newspapers.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of them are now like one's at AP, like political writer, one's like a big writer at the Trib.
Oh, really?
The people who've stayed in it have really it makes me so happy. And then the rest of us are all in like healthcare comms. Like in various different hospital systems, like in the Chicago area, or big pharma.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
Mike-
I was gonna ask you guys like who, if we would know any or who is the most famous like journalistic person that you, or journalism person. I mean, it could be an editor, it could be a journalist or something like that you worked with along the way.
I didn't work with him, but I was, for some reason, I was just thinking about this story. Do you remember Jay Mariotti?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so when I got hired at the Sun-Times, I got hired into Features, and Features had a big conference room with shades, and every day Jay Mariotti would go. I think he was on Around the Horn. Is that what it's called on ESPN?
He was on.
So he'd film it from in there.
Right.
Yeah, no, he would film it from, they had like a little studio in the middle of the newsroom for him to do this, but he would go in there and change his clothes.
What happened to Mariotti? Mariotti,
because bathrooms are just too far away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I had to like put in the bathroom. He got into some trouble with that.
He did.
Yeah. And so he like, I think he stopped, doesn't work anymore. And I don't know exactly what he's doing. I didn't know him at all, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big name.
Mike, what was your trajectory after working in the papers? Like, how did you end up where you are now?
Well, I moved on to the American Medical Association from the Beacon News.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was writing for the weekly newspaper for the AMA, American Medical News, and then worked my way into the consulting world from there. So so that was kind of, you know, different move, different shift, but I've been writing all my life. It's just, you know, not quite the same as, you know, covering village board meetings and park board meetings and things like that. But yeah.
That's really cool. So you're one of the first purveyors of fake news from the AMA. Is that what?
Yeah. I was trying to figure out how to share my screen, because I was, you know, for those of us, the millions of listeners that don't know, Michael Norbert was the editor of the sports, that was the editor of the Observer sports section, or the sports department. Right,
Oh,
Mikey?
that's right. Yes.
At Notre Dame. So, and then I was trying to, like, the only thing I came across, this is so low tech, but this is this picture from one of the audience, which is like, which, by the way, if those of you that don't know Michael Norbit, this is not an accident. Like, I first looked at it and normally people were like, oh, they caught him off guard and he looked confused. I'm like, no, he had been planning this for weeks. He's like, nope, do it again. I have to look. It's going to be sweet. My friends are going to think this is hilarious. Do it.
Well, that was the peerless prognosticator section. So we would pick, you know, 5 or 6 games each week in the football section. And if I lost out of all like 4 or 5 of us who did our picks the week before, if I had the worst record, they would use that headshot. That was like my punishment for doing so bad and picking the football game. So it got to be like I would purposefully, you know, pick the wrong game. So
this is a great picture. I saw it. I remembered it. It was just so, you look so young, and you're like, huh? Like someone had just, you were paying attention to something, and someone had a camera here, and they were like, Mike, huh?
I missed that buzz cut too. I may go back to that. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks sweet. It looks
Did
sweet.
you get
Well,
to
so you just get Todd to do it again.
That was taken, by the way, from the Friday, September 30th, 1994 edition of the Observer in what is known as the jockstrip section, which is a clever name. I like it.
did you
Best
go
column
like,
ever.
sports, like on the sidelines or travel with the team or anything like that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
Senior
awesome.
year. Yeah, a little bit junior, but senior year. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, actually, one of my like favorite road trip stories covering the football team was our senior year. We played at Air Force, and Air Force is it's in Colorado Springs. And I mean, Colorado Springs is, far away from a lot of things, but then the Air Force Academy is like really distant. And then the football stadium at the Air Force Academy is incredibly distant. So we had no idea. Like we were just like, yeah, we're going to Colorado Springs. Let's go. We got on the plane without booking, renting a car or doing anything. So we had no ride whatsoever. So we figured out like, okay, we got to get to the the campus, the Air Force, campus. So we got there, and then we're like in like this, there's like this really pretty chapel that's there. And, it's like a stop on the way for a lot of tourists, and a lot of people were visiting because of the game. And we're asking people, well, where's the football stadium? Can we walk there? The guy's like, it's like 6 miles that way. You got it. Hop in. We'll give you a ride. So we got a ride.
And not to bring it full circle to the theme, but you're doing this like without cell phones and like certainly without smartphones. Like,
totally.
Like,
right.
so
Without anything. Yeah.
You literally get off a plane in an airport and you're just like, hope
We're like, all
like,
right, where are we going?
hope there's
like
a taxi or someone will offer you a ride.
total college kids. Yeah. We're just like, where are we going? Yeah. So
Now you're like, I just throw it on the credit card, rent a car or whatever. But like, you weren't old enough to rent a car, and you probably didn't.
Yeah.
no. Yeah. We couldn't
We're
rent
like,
a car.
Certainly not in the
Yeah.
Observer budget.
I know, right? Exactly. We really had to watch our pennies with the Observer funds. So we get to the game, and we're covering the game and everything, doing interviews afterwards. And, we're interviewing players, and they're getting on the bus and, getting ready to go. Next thing we know, like the bus of the Notre Dame, the entire team is like gone, like leaving. And we look around, the lights around the stadium go off, and we're like, we are like stranded at this football stadium in the middle of nowhere. And there was one vehicle left. It was a big semi, the ESPN semi truck. And so we like go up to the guys, it's like the production crew. And we're like, we have no way of getting back to Colorado Springs. Can we get a ride with you? And they're like, yeah, jump in the back. And not the back of the cab, the back of the trailer. So we rode in the back of the trailer of this ESPN truck. And then I still remember, like, it pulls in and we hear it stop. And, the whole time I'm thinking like, are we going to end up in the woods somewhere? Like, where are we going here? And instead it was like a Hardee's parking lot in Colorado Springs. It's like, all right, we're here. And we're like, oh, thank God.
Could you imagine
Awesome
like if your child told you this story like now, like so then we got the back of a semi, you'd be like, what?
What?
Like,
So I'm pretty sure my parents don't know this story. They might. I don't know. Like, it's amazing what they're learning about their son by listening to this podcast.
who are
But
you traveling with? Were you traveling with Mr. Sherman?
I think I was. Yeah.
It's not surprising that two of you, although
Yeah.
you're very resourceful. I would have been like, well, I guess we're just going to sleep in this bench here. Like, forget it.
We
ESPN
would have
guy.
walked like the 12 miles to get back,
Jeez.
It was
I wouldn't have
insane
expected
though.
that.
Like, you would not imagine like how big this place was. It was crazy. And
That's
we wouldn't have thought to like research this in advance either.
No, because you would have had to research it, print it out, like find it on the 3 computers on campus that have the internet, print it out somehow, like,
Save it on our disc, right?
yeah, like right, take it with you, keep it, find out like in advance what you needed to do. I mean, I feel like we were much more resourceful back then. Like you would just like do that. I can't imagine like, I think even at my age, if you just dropped me at like a shopping mall without a phone and I didn't know where I was, I'd freak out. Like you just can't, like, I don't know what to do.
What do I do now?
I don't know what hours the Orange Julius is open, and how am I going to know that if I have a phone?
I know I have a coupon on my phone.
Everything's on my phone.
That's a great story, Mike. I love that.
Oh,
Uh,
you guys had some. You
well,
guys
this
had
has
some
been-
good trips.
This has been really fun, you guys. Thank you, Kara, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks
This
for
has
asking.
been
It's so good to
great.
see you guys too. Karen
Thank you,
always.
Kara. Yeah, great to see you too.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was awesome. Thanks, Kara.
No,
You
this has been
made it.
really fun.
I mean,
Yeah, you
25
Our
years
first
ago.
guest,
What's
and you
gonna
lived
happen
up to the
now?
hype.
Kids
yes.
and the houses and the whole thing. So,
Yeah, we got. Yeah. I know. We
stairs montage behind you. That's very nice.
the listeners will be shocked to know that Karen had a specific trajectory, and I repeatedly knocked her off the trajectory. Tell me about the flag outside your house, and also tell me about what kind of swingers club was at the.
No, that's what. Oh, yeah, that was great.
Okay,
No,
can I
I
quickly tell a story about a strip club in unincorporated South Elgin?
Of course you may. Of course you. Would you ever? Do you think there would possibly be? Yeah. Do you think that you would get a no to that in
Mike.
any circumstance?
Well, the King County, this is a story I loved. And kind of the same thing with Mike. Like they say it has legs. Like it just, the King County sheriffs had heard there was like breasts being shown, which I guess that was illegal. So they did an undercover sting.
That's very specific. I
they-
hear
and it
there
was
are
like nipples.
breasts being shown.
Is what the issue was like, I think.
Are they nudity? Are they dancing? I don't know. All I know
Well,
is breasts being shown. We have to. Go.
that's what they said at the King County Sheriff's Office. So using taxpayer money, they went to blackjacks where they paid for lap dances and shots, like off these women and stuff like
Oh,
that.
this went the completely different direction than I was
Yeah,
expecting.
part of the investigation.
Oh my gosh.
So like they come back and like
Oh,
found blackjacks, and the blackjacks owner was like, Daily Herald, I got another side of the story. And then it turns out you can like, it's like a public act. So you can, write them a letter, and then they have to send you like all the bar bills and like they have to account for all that stuff.
Oh, that's huge.
Right. Like crazy.
Talk about, did you, so like that was
Wow.
like, did you find out about that? Like as a scoop, like you're like kind of stumbled upon this thing and you're like, wow.
Yeah,
like,
I
this
don't
is gonna
remember
be
how
awesome.
I found out about it. Like if it came up at a meeting we had another one where like the mayor of South Elgin shot himself in the foot. He had used to be the police superintendent. So this is a hot suburban story, is when the officials double dip. Like you're the police chief and you retire and get your pension, and then you become the village manager,
Yeah.
which is like another 6-figure job. So
That's the dream. That's the dream, ladies and gentlemen. That's the dream.
well, this guy, Daily Herald, did a big expose, and he called. He's like, "You guys miss me, ha ha." He shot him. I love this guy, Larry Jones. He shot himself in the foot by accident, cleaning out his like old service revolver. And then the paramedic called, and another reporter took the call. But the paramedic was like, "How come I didn't read anything in the blotter about Larry Jones shooting himself in the foot? I know it happened because I transported him to the hospital." Turns out the police covered it up.
Oh my gosh.
So then
Seriously?
it's like another like 25-year-old's like, "Larry, we've heard you shot yourself in the foot," and he's like, "How'd you find out about that?"
I did not. You're walking on crutches. No,
Anyway,
I'm not.
that's
Like
all
you
I
just like
Wow.
deny,
Hilarious.
deny.
Listen to this podcast.
Oh my God.
I'll tell you,
You guys have had way
when
more
we-
interesting lives than me. I can't.
You know what?
Yeah.
That's South Elgin. I was like the Elgin reporter, and I got courts, which was supposed to be a promotion, but they didn't want to like give me more money. So they were like, "You can also do South Elgin." And like I was like, nobody goes from Elgin to South Elgin. And I was like ashamed, and I hated it. And they had a Dairy Queen in South Elgin. So before every village board meeting, I would get like a
Yes.
burger and sit in my car and look at the Fox River, and like the mayor.
This is gonna be in the movie. It's really like they'll play like some like dark music over it, like as you like you tell off your editor, and then like you go to the Dairy Queen at night in the middle of the night, and instead of like you drinking like out of a paper bag, you're eating like a blizzard by the river. It's not as
Some
bad.
editor told me to light the fire within during the South Elgin years. He was like, "Nobody told me to light the fire within. It burns." When we left and went to the Arlington Heights Bureau, they got me a cookie cake from like the local mall. Fire within.
Fire within. Oh, that's a great.
It was so nice.
Uh,
Thank you for asking. This is
I'm glad to hear that the fire within has continued
Um,
because you
yes.
kept that passion.
People think federal or high level politics is a mess these days, but boy, you go deep in the suburbs and you get a
Yeah.
lot of scoop. Like,
Yeah.
That's
And those
where
people,
it's
you're
like-
right. Like those people like out there, many of them, like that's the only paper they get or something, right? I mean, like whether it be the Beacon News or the Daily Herald or whatever it is, but they don't, it's not like they have like a lot of them have like the Sun Times or the Tribune and then they go to that. It's like that's how they like,
Right.
those are big deals and big stories
Yeah.
to them. Like that's
Yeah.
like
and they like know all these people, right? Like if you see your neighbor's kid broke some like track record or something like that, like it's very exciting.
yeah.
See that in the
I would be.
and it's very impactful. Like people, it's entry level jobs and like, but it is like, I mean, and the people who have done it for so long, like that's like their gift to all of us. I feel like is they have made such like an impact on their community with their robust news coverage.
Oh my God. Yeah. You guys are cool.
Well, thanks you guys.
Thank you.
I loved hearing these. I honestly, we need to recap this foursome at another time, and I don't mean in a swingers club sense.
Oh, come on.
So,
What about that strip club that Kara
Wait.
knows about?
I have to head out to Kent County, I guess. So.
Hey, give
Head out
free lap dances to the cops out there. It's fine. Listen, we've badmouthed
right.
a lot of people in this podcast. Let's
I know.
we made a lot of enemies. The mayor, the
Yeah, I
police
gotta
force,
fly.
a lot of editors, people.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure Chick-fil-A is going to want to sponsor us
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I mean, where this
yeah,
is,
I know.
Yeah, Carrie, you don't know this. We're working
they're
on
already
a
off the
Chick-fil-A sponsorship.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
They're, I think they're
Oh,
way
yeah.
out.
phone's already buzzing. You're out.
Yeah,
I like
we're down.
sauces.
All right, thanks you guys.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Yeah.